Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet, take your profit, find out how. PropSwap.com. Download the Prop Swap app today. Adam Caplan is here. Good conversation we're going to have. You know, the Rams won the Super Bowl. Should the Eagles take out a page from the Rams book? We'll talk to Adam Caplan about that right now from the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can check out on the Inside the Birds platform, all their social media channels, and, of course, every day right here on Football at 4. There he is, Adam Caplan. Happy Friday, Adam.
Same to you, Mike, my favorite South Jersey sports talk radio host. But then again, I don't know anyone who hosts shows in South Jersey, so you'll have to be it. You're my favorite guy, as far as you know.
Well, that's narrows it down to one right here. All right, Adam. So you're at the Super Bowl. Everybody's, a week removed now from the Super Bowl. And we've been kind of looking at this, that the Rams did it a little unconventional. And I wonder how many teams are taking notice of what they did, and it's a copycat league. Will teams copy and be more cavalier with their draft picks to get proven players?
Well, that was the subject of this morning's Inside the Birds podcast on all platforms and also on YouTube. And Jeff Mosher and I were coming up with themes, and Jeff sent me some thoughts on what we should do on future shows. When I saw this, I thought this is really good, and it really, this subject took almost all of the show up, which actually, I'm sorry, did it drop today's Friday? It actually dropped yesterday. But I just thought it was a great subject. And, you look what the Rams have done. They trade away 7 future first-round picks. Now, not all of them were for players. Some of them would trade back. Some were to trade it for Jared Goff in 2016. Well, that was when Jeff Fisher was the head coach. But the fact of the matter is, you'll hear this on that show that Jeff and I just dropped. There's not one right way to win, to build a Super Bowl-driven team. It's generally you build through the draft and not through free agency. You build through the draft, you supplement through free agency. But the Rams, though, I'll tell you this. It's funny. People talk about the Eagles and how great that Super Bowl team was, that only 11 of the 22 starters who started in that Super Bowl game against the Patriots were drafted by or signed as undrafted free agents by the Eagles, where the Rams actually had more players that were homegrown than the Eagles did. So you can't just say that every player that you draft or you have in your roster has to be guys that you drafted or signed as undrafted free agents.
Right. They've traded away 7 first-round picks. But a lot of the conversation, Adam, has been, well, they've traded a lot of first-round picks, but they've done a really good job in the 3rd, 4th, 5th. Like, they built their team in those middle rounds, which is an area that the Eagles have done a pretty good job in the past. They found some mid-round gems. Their problem has been hitting on the high guys.
Right. The obviously, at receiver, they have not done well. Corner, they've not done well enough. Now, Jalen Mills was a home run 7th-round pick who started in the Super Bowl. Now he's sort of a hybrid player, signed a good free agent contract with the Patriots last year. But, yeah, when you look at some of the Eagles' contributors, Greg Ward for not this past season, but for a couple of years as a former undrafted free agent who'd been cut a bunch, been on their practice squad a bunch, he contributed. Quest Watkins was a quasi-starter last season, a 6th-round pick, but the one of all time. Well, clearly now, and will probably one of the best Eagle draft picks of all time, who I actually met at the Super Bowl last week, Jordan Mailata, a 7th-round pick. Now, let's call it like it is. When he was drafted in 2018, nobody knew if he would even make the team or ever contribute. And now, not only is he their star left tackle, he signed a mega contract extension, $60 million a year, and has not only a chance to be an Eagles Hall of Famer. If he continues on this trek, who knows how he could be in terms of the league, and could be an all-time great. Who knows? But he's been an unbelievable story.
Well, and we talked about him on Monday with Jeff, Adam, which maybe it was Wednesday. PFF put out their top 100 players. Milada was 22nd in the entire league this year.
Wow.
Second highest left tackle in football.
Mike, watching him, I was at the OTAs in 2018, and I remember talking to someone. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just put a helmet on in April of 18 for the first time in his life. if he ever figures it out, look out, because he has no idea what he's doing. And obviously, Jeff Stalin is an unbelievable coach, and Stalin ran the workout, the first workout that he had. Jeff Stalin ran at the IMG Academy in Florida, and that's when Stalin reported back to Howie Roseman in the front office that they needed to stay on this, and Jeff would be part of the next workout. And it's one of the most remarkable stories. Really, I'll bring this even further. One of the most remarkable stories in NFL history, because this guy never played football in his life. It's one thing if he made the team and be a good backup, but to be one of the top, I like PFF's grades. Quarterback, I don't love their grades, but they know what they're looking at tackle, and they've hired a bunch of former coaches. That's pretty high praise. 22nd highest graded player. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and 23rd was Dallas Goddard.
I would love to, when you give this stuff out, I love to see the criteria. Now, I know from talking to NFL people who would do advance on the Eagles each week, they raved about Milada. Didn't have a lot of bad snaps this past season, and he stayed relatively healthy other than the MCL sprain. And I do wonder, Mike, going forward, how good could he be? Now, let's leave PFF to the side here.
Yeah.
If you and I graded 32 left tackles, is he legitimately not –
by the way, Trent Williams was the number one player in the league.
He had a great year. Now, he's had injury problems, but he'll probably be a Hall of Famer. He's great. But I would love to know, if you got – I know my friend, a guy who writes for The Athletic, one of the writers does it. He pulls Mike Sando. Mike Sando, who's great. I work with at ESPN. He's real big on doing, talking to NFL people and getting their thoughts on players. I'd love to know if you did a poll of 32 general managers, well, actually not counting Howie Roseman, 31, how they would rank Jordan Mailata as a left tackle. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, Goddard was the 20th. The Eagles had 5 players on the list. It was Goddard, was 23rd, Slay. Kelsey did not make the list, by the way. And
that's insane.
Slay, Hargrave, Milada, Goddard, Slay, Hargrave was 98. There was one other guy that I'm forgetting here. Oh, Lane Johnson was the other guy.
Oh, Lane. Yeah, Lane was really good last season. Yeah. It's funny because people say, oh, Howie Roseman hasn't drafted a lot of pro bowlers. That's certainly true. It's a fact. But if you just look at how NFL people feel, and obviously PFF's watching the coaching tape, and how they don't include Jason Kelsey in there is ridiculous. That's absurd. But
there was 5 or 6 centers that I said, maybe they just didn't include. Like maybe center was a position that, didn't grade. There was 5 centers on that list ahead of him.
Yeah, I'd love to see that list of the centers to debate that. But look, that tells you how. Look, then Hargrave was a great free agent signing. His first season, you remember, he was hurt, and this past season he was really good. Now the second half he was not as good, but he's still excellent free agent signing. And this is the final year of his 3-year deal here coming up. So you wonder if they would extend it.
He was one of the worst graded tackles against the run, but he was second in all of football behind Aaron Donald against the pass. So
he pressures. Yeah, he gets what are called pressures. Tremendous with that. If you remember, he was the best defensive tackle in football for the first 5 weeks. Yeah. His pressure rate was incredible. It's funny. He was my breakout player there coming into the season. And I was sticking my chest out. I'm like, looks like I got to get this right. I'm like, what happened in the second half? What we were told was he wasn't bad. He just did not get to the quarterback as much as he did in the first half.
Yeah, that's for sure. He definitely slowed down. You're right. Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com, and the Inside the Birds podcast, Football at 4. One area that I think a lot of people, think they need to look at is a veteran wide receiver.
Yes.
And I would imagine that if you want one of those, this is a really good year to be shopping in that aisle.
Yeah, this is when we grade. Jeff and I, and Greg Cosell will be back with us. We start this coming Wednesday. Will be our first free agent series. And I could tell you, once we get through all the positions, you'll know that receiver by far is the number one position for free agency. It's so deep. Now, I warn people, there's always a reason why players become available. It's not always for any particular reason. They're different reasons. A lot of the players on the list are either older or have injury issues, or some are underachievers. But yeah, it is by far the strongest position I just finished my free agent file of over 700 players. Now this includes restricted free agents and not at 700, 300. I'm sorry, 300 players. Receiver, when I went through it, I'm like, this is like one of the deepest lists I've ever put together. And as you said, Mike, there's some great names on that list. Now, what I would also tell you is we made it pretty clear before last season started, the Eagles have to do something. They have to add a veteran receiver. It had nothing to do with Rager's struggles. It was just, although his rookie season wasn't bad. He was hurt, but he flashed. But his struggles past season, boy, if they would have had a veteran receiver in there so they could slowly bring Rager along, they wouldn't have to play him as much. Boy, that would have helped.
Yeah, and you've got a list of guys here. Allen Robinson. I think a lot of people. I don't know. Do you like how the Bears used Allen Robinson? It seemed that they just kind of phased him out. The quarterback play there has been dreadful. I've seen a lot of Juju Smith-Schuster love recently here, and I saw Matt Bowen talk about him to help them in the slot here. I thought that was kind of interesting.
All right, so Allen Robinson. So what I'm told on Allen Robinson is the Bears were going to move him strictly to the slot last season if they would have drafted someone to replace him as their X receiver. They did not, so he played primarily on the outside. He also missed significant time with a hamstring injury. My sense is the Eagles don't want to pay a ton of money in free agency for wide receiver. I don't know. It's too early to know what Jeff and Moshe and I will find out what he wants in free agency. You see reports out there. They're mostly not correct. The market will start to be set at the combine. Juju Smith-Schuster is primarily a slot receiver, relatively young receiver. Did a great job of coming back. He shouldn't have come back from his shoulder injury and his surgery, but kudos to him to come back. High character kid, strictly a slot receiver, run after the catch guy. That would be a good signing.
I feel like he is right in the Roseman wheelhouse, Adam. A younger guy who's probably going to be in the bargain bin based on injury. Like that just smells like a Roseman deal.
Yeah, and Roseman, Howie's great at free agency. He really is. He's great at assessing the market. Nobody's perfect. The Eagle fans want him to master the draft. We know that's a problem. It's been well documented. By the way, I should let your listeners know, you could go back to our Inside the Birds platform, either on YouTube, but mostly on the pod version. You could go back to every show we've done since 29. I think some of the shows from 18, but most from 19. And we did a historical review of some of his drafts, and it was painful for some of his misses, but we explained what he was thinking back then. And that's the thing. It's interesting. Receiver, they've had obviously mixed results. In the draft, really not good. But in free agency, they've had some hits. Some guys have hit. And as you said, Mike, yeah, they have to look at it. Now, there's a reason, again, why these guys are out there. DJ Chark, really gifted player, tall, can run, good production, high character kid, talking to people who've worked with him, but he has a major injury history. The Eagles, we reported this 2 years ago on Inside the Birds, actually from the Combine. The Eagles were done with injured players. Howie Roseman would actually confirm this on the record down the line when he did a press conference about they were kind of going to go away from injured players. And for the most part, they've done that in free agency. Chark, the problem is, unless you get a bargain, I don't see them going after him as much as I love it because I think he'd be great for the Eagles. Mike Williams, another guy. Fans love him. Major injury history. And he's going to command a lot of money. Big guy. The Chargers, talking to them, they were not going to extend his contract last season. They wanted to see him play through it, see if he could stay healthy. He had a nice season. Good player, former high first-round pick, but he does have a big injury history.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN from InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast. What do you think about Kelsey?
Wait, Jason, what do you mean, Kelsey? Oh, yeah. So I'd be very surprised if he doesn't come back. I mean, this is not a report; it's an opinion.
Yeah,
based on people who know him, he felt good. He's had this minor knee issue for the last couple of years. And he plays through it. He sometimes is listed on the injury report with it, but he plays through it. I was told that he felt good, but he hadn't made a final decision. It would certainly be a surprise to me if he doesn't come back. Now, we did report this last spring that he's got a $30 million roster bonus due, and I believe it's June 3rd. So they'd have to, not that Kelsey's going to make a decision relatively soon. They're not going to wait till then. But they would have to redo his deal. But if he comes back by they couldn't wait till June 3rd. They have to do it before then. So
I think he'd let them know by the draft, though, right? Just
yeah,
so
of
they
course.
know what to do.
I would expect for the next 3 to 4 weeks, he'll announce something. I'd be very surprised because he was so. He made the Pro Bowl? Did he not? He was in the Pro Bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
Kelsey, yeah, I think he was. He was first team all pro. I thought.
Yeah, I would think so. That's why I don't see how the heck was he not on PFF's list. I know people have issues with PFF. I'm a big fan of them. I have been since they started.
Yeah.
But I don't agree with some of the stuff they put out. Thank God they don't do halftime grades. With quarterbacks, man, they would get roasted on that stuff. But they overall they do a pretty good job.
He did make the Pro Bowl, by the way.
Good.
And he was a first team all pro this year as well.
Yeah, how the hell that's obviously an egregious mistake by PFF to not have him in their top 100.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. If you were to guess, they had most improved player for each team. Who was the Eagles guy?
Milada?
No. That was Josh's guess. This is from their grade last year, PFF grade last year to this year.
How could it not be Milada? I mean, no.
I think Milada had a pretty good grade though last year. Like he might have been say a 79, and this year was a 90.
Okay, because he was unbelievably dominant. I know the Eagle. I've been talking to Eagle sources. It's not even close. He was better than average to good in 20. Certainly shows some upside. He was dominant.
Yeah.
This year, and I met Jordan last week. I've seen him before, but
what did Trey Thomas say about him? I saw the other day on his
Trey likes him. Trey, I know with the hand usage, Trey's pointed out to us that, by the way, he's doing his offensive line series. I don't want to give it away. The great thing is they're only 15 to 20 minutes. You get in and out. It's only on YouTube because it's visual. You have to see it. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. But I saw Jordan last week at the Super Bowl. He looks to be in tremendous shape, and he's 6'8", easily 380. You've never seen anyone that big look in that kind of shape. He looks amazing. Jacked up and he's ready to go.
I saw him in a Sixer game once. God. He is the most mammoth human being you ever see. By the way, the answer to the most improved Eagle from the PFF grades from one year to the next was Avante Bannocks.
I mean, he had a good year. He definitely – oh, yeah, well, here's the thing. I could see it. He had a very disappointing year in 2020.
Yeah, he scored a 37 as an outside corner.
Yeah, he was terrible. Yeah, he was terrible. He was just that we said it all offseason last year. He'd get enough of the slot, keep him enough of the outside, keep him in the slot only, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
But Milada is so good right now that it just the way that he played last season, Mike, I'm kind of shocked at how good he was. And hearing other teams rave about him, I love when people will call him from other teams. They call him the rugby player. Yeah, that rugby player is really good. I'm like, okay.
I hope my friend Doug's listening right now. He hated the signing.
I mean, the draft pick. Oh, the extension.
Well, he said they talked. Why? He felt like they went they gave him all this money. He hasn't proven anything. I said, but that's what Howie does. He finds guys. That was
started by Joe Banner. Yeah, Joe Banner was the one who started it. The old Banner rule, Mike, was the Eagles would try to extend players after 2 years. NFLPA had enough of it, so they changed the rule. It was called the Banner rule. You can't extend drafted players until after year 3.
Yeah. And, it got to the point where they had all these holdouts all the time because they would outplay their contracts.
Exactly. In fact, it's so funny because I remember Joe talking about that. And Michael Lewis was the one who bucked the trend. He left and signed a big free agent deal with the Niners, but he never was the same after he left.
It's funny because Michael, Tuesday, we were talking about safeties in today's game as opposed to then, and he was talking about all these guys that just wouldn't be. I said to him, what position would Jeremiah, not that Trotter was a safety, but just how guys who he played with, I said, what position would Trotter play in today's game? He's like, you don't have a position. Nowhere. Where do you play?
Well, he's too big physically because Trotter's probably 260.
Yeah.
One thing, Q, by the way, signed a major deal. It was $6 million a year back in 2011 with the Rams. I think it was, he would know better, but I remember reporting on it. I think it might have been $6 million a year.
He would know better how much he signed for?
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is it might have been like 6 years, $30 million. I don't remember, 6 for 36. I don't remember. But I just remember being blown away by the contract he got. I couldn't believe it, but it was a market deal. He got to give his agent Jason Shea credit. That was a monster deal he signed with the Rams. Why? Because Spags was the head coach.
Yeah.
He coached him in Philly as his D coordinator.
All right, good stuff. Adam Caplan getting ready for the draft?
Yeah, well, what we're doing now, a little bit, yeah, for sure. We'll Jeff and I will be together at the Combine in 2 weeks, but we've got the free agent series starting this coming Wednesday on all platforms for Inside the Birds. You guys are going to love this because we're going to break down free agency. That's up first.
Yep.
That's the first. It actually starts in 3 weeks.
March 14th is the legal tampering.
Yeah, it's called the open negotiating period. Right. So you're talking in 3 weeks. So, yeah, we get on it, man. We can't wait to discuss this because the Eagles will be aggressive. We'd said last year they're going to be very quiet because of the Wentz dead money on his contract. And how about the Wentz situation?
What do you think about that, man?
Shocked. Up to the final 2 games, he actually played fairly well. But to me, there's more than meets the eye here. And that general manager, Chris Ballard, buried him publicly. I thought that was unnecessary, but that killed his trade value.
Well, do you see, Adam, a market for him as a starter, 1, and 2, do you see Wentz having the personality to accept a deal where he goes into a team knowing he's the backup?
No. There's no way in hell he's going anywhere to be the backup. Now, he may because he's fallen off here based on the way the Colts talked about it publicly. Even Frank Reich didn't back him as much as you would think, who was his, he was his champion. To play with the Colts. But to move this along here before we get out of here, I don't expect the market to be robust because of kind of the way Carson's received around the league, but he's still gifted. I still look at that Colts game at Baltimore, and he and Lamar Jackson had one of the best games of the season. Wentz put the team on his back. By the way, their defense didn't play great to finish the season, but there's no excuse. And remember, though, Wentz was on the COVID list for that Week 17 game. He was able to get cleared for the game, but he never practiced leading up to that game, and then clearly he was not right playing against the Jaguars.
Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com and Inside the Birds podcast, all off-season free agency, draft, and, of course, OTAs, minicamp. They got it all here on Football at 4 as well. Adam, have a great weekend, man.
You too, man. Thanks.
Good conversation.